Well, as you know, Brian Weedeye, MLB 15 The Show is a fantastic game. One of the greatest baseball games ever. Certainly the best of the new generation because
Hmm.
of all the things that it does well. But I mean, certainly even in the conversation with some of the all-time great games.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons for that, right? First of all, it looks beautiful. Second of all, in many ways, it plays just wonderfully. You know, we've chatted quite a bit about all the things that it does well, the hitter batter, battles and all of the different key decisions that you have to make. But even though it is recognized almost universally as something that is terrific, that does not mean that there aren't places that it could improve. So as we ease into the hot stove season, one of the things that always sparks a good conversation is what do we hope for from next year's version of MLB The Show? Obviously, with a annual sports title, these teams don't have 3, 4, 5 years to make their game like they do for Halo 5 or Fallout 4 or some of the other big games. But still, every year, different things are done, design decisions are made, and improvements are implemented. So having said that, Brian, I know that you've been giving this some thought. I certainly have, as have all the folks in the Hit the Pass community. So I believe that you've got some of your own thoughts as well as those from the folks who frequent these pages.
Yeah, and you're right. MLB 15, The Show, it was probably I think it was easily the most complete game in the series because online actually worked. And they
worked great.
Yeah, so that combined with, really deep modes that they've had around forever. But there is definitely room for improvement. And we're going to be finding out what they have in store for us in about a month. We're that close to finding out some features and things like the cover athlete and all that. It's right around the corner, but there is definitely a lot that could be done to improve the game. And just going back and reading reviews, asking for feedback and suggestions on Twitter and on Pasta Padre. Got a lot of stuff back from people on all this, and there are definitely just like when we talked about the postseason and how we can improve postseason in the show. There's definitely pockets of these areas where people really are looking for improvement from, and you see it in a number of replies, and you've seen it really for years. And the first is commentary, and again, we talked about this in the postseason. People have been asking for new commentary or new commentators or just new audio, something fresh for 5, 6, 7 years. And they've tweaked it along the way, and they've maybe brought in one color commentator and removed another along the way, but never really. It's always felt like the same thing. And the commentary is not bad, but when you've heard it for 10 years, basically, the same lines and everything, it starts to wear on people. So commentary is there. And then there's Road to the Show, which we've discussed many times, is also stale. It was really one of the best original career modes, but they haven't innovated in Road to the Show at all. And it's very basic compared to modes that you'll find in like NBA 2K16. So a lot of people are looking for new stuff from Road to the Show. Player emotion, which they worked on some last year, but I don't think we've seen enough of. As far as gameplay goes, I think people want to see the excessive steals and excessive bunts, which really plagued online play. That stuff addressed, because steals and bunts have really been an issue in the show also for 5+ years. That's always been an exploit used online. I would like to see an online game that's short. And I've talked about this on a previous show too, like an extra innings mode where you go in, because those 45 minutes to an hour you have to commit to an online game is really excessive. So if it's going to be like a play now type online game, something along those lines. And then for me, what really stood out as far as player emotion's one thing, but authentic touches around the league. And as a Mariners fan, not having like the King's Court when Felix Hernandez is pitching at home, which is really one of the coolest kind of fan rituals in baseball, not having the King's Court there was I'd love to see that kind of thing, custom or team specific chants and celebrations from the crowd, and just that fandom come through a little more. Other suggestions from people, an overhaul the franchise mode, although Road to the Show seems to get most of the attention in this regard, but people want to see something new in franchise mode. Maybe expansion or work done to minor leagues. Challenges made at calls other than just first base, safe and foul, or safe and out, which has to be done since it's such a huge part of baseball now. Weather changes, retractable roofs, rainouts, double headers in your franchise. Another one, and I think this is coming off of NBA 2K16, is an expansion mode or relocation. People definitely want that for a franchise mode. Custom season length in franchise mode. That was mentioned. An online co-op mode. Variation in outfield animations. People seem a little dissatisfied with animations in the outfield. Classic stadiums, return those. And just other ways to kind of connect you to the news in your franchise mode as far as a highlight show or a social media feed, those type of things. So that's just kind of a general feeling of the responses that came back to me on this subject.
It's interesting because MLB The Show really is an embarrassment of riches. There are so many enjoyable ways, legitimately enjoyable ways to play the game, right? You've got your franchise, you've got your online franchise, which again now works. You've got Diamond Dynasty. You've got MLB Today, I think is the name of, where you can take any of the current matchups. You can play exhibition games, obviously. You've got those daily challenges, right, which are these, cool little nifty opportunities for you to just, get some at-bats and try to get some high scores. And I'm probably not even naming all the different ways to play the game.
Diamond Dynasty.
Well, I think I said Diamond Dynasty.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Yep. So a lot of these sound kind of nitpicky, and that's obviously a very good thing, right? That means that the game, is, as we already know, is excellent.
Yeah, none of the feedback I got was this is broken,
right,
or this is unacceptable, which you'll find in pretty much every game something that's wrong. And it's not so much that we need this fixed, it's more that this can really improve the experience for us. And so that gives, I think that gives them, the developers, an opportunity to really explore and create, be imaginative in how they do some of this stuff.
Yeah, and that's where I think the real challenge is in creativity and imagination, right? Because you're talking to a guy who has played hundreds and hundreds of games of MLB The Show. In my own 162 game regular season that I played offline, in our multiple online franchise seasons. There's so much that is so good. Just personally, a couple little things. There's these outfield bugs every once in a while, with those fly balls to the outfield where you get your guy there and just for whatever reason, he just loses it and it drops. And typically it happens at a very inopportune time, and that inevitably leads to runs, so that's something I would like to see. Improved. The way that I really have come to love playing MLB The Show and playing on my own is, as we've talked about before, I will player lock with a hitter for the first 5 to 6 innings, and watch the game sim. Then I'll come up and I'll take my at-bats. And then from inning, 6 or 7, usually never later than 7 on, I will play the rest of the game. It would be great, when you talk about a new online way to play the game, it would be great if there could be some sort of incorporation into that where, okay, we agree that for the first 5 or 6 innings, you and I are going to have a couple of key moments where we'll play each other, but then the rest of the game will go on around us and we'll be simmed and we'll see it. And then for the last 2 or 3 innings or so, then we'll play it from there, right? So it's not like we'll just show up in the 7th inning and it could be 8-1 or 6-4. We'll have at least 2 or 3 opportunities before then to have a key at bat or a key moment. Because I have found that to be such a great way to play the game, feel like I'm still influencing the entire game. I played an entire 162 game season playing that way. It was so great. If there was a way to translate some kind of experience like that to online, I think would be terrific. I love your idea of an extra innings mode, but it doesn't quite give you the feeling of having experienced something along the lines of a 9-inning game without going the full 9 innings.
Yeah, and what I like about an extra innings mode is what you find in online baseball games typically is the first person to score wins. So
Yes.
basically, you're saving everybody a half hour or 45 minutes that way, or the first person to score means the other person quits, right? So
Right.
So you're eliminating that kind of stressful and unfun situation. But I always look back to NCAA football 06, I think it was, had the overtime mode. And they only had it for 1 year, and I wish they would bring it back. And I'm guessing it had something to do with conflicting with ranked games, and you have to be limited. And there was this whole thing back then that Microsoft and Sony required as far as rank and what you could offer. So, but that was insanely fun because you'd usually go on and maybe it'd be 5 or 10 minutes, but you'd have a fulfilling experience where there's a winner and a loser, but you didn't have to spend 40 minutes doing it. You didn't have to worry the person was going to quit halfway through. Any number of stressful things, or somebody pulling the plug or making it laggy, or just bad experiences. You got to avoid that. Baseball isn't really known as an online game, and partially I think that's because it's never run very well online, but also there is that time commitment. It's a slower pace, but this year I think people at least got to experience it the right way in online games and online franchise and in Diamond Dynasty.
And the real creativity, as I'm sure several people mentioned, really comes down to Road to the Show. It's so funny because, and again, just the way that I like to experience a game does by no means do I try to say that I speak for others, but NBA 2K16 to me, while the 5-on-5 is great, the single player career mode is particularly compelling. Whereas for with MLB The Show, there's no way that I'll play Road to the Show because it has been the same for 5, 6, 7 years. But the regular 9-on-9 baseball is so terrific. I don't even feel like I'm missing anything. For me to get me back into the Road to the Show will take something really significant, and whether that is the introduction of some story backgrounds or whether that is some sort of an MMO, right, where I'm in a pool with other people, other friends, sort of trying to work our way up, whether it becomes like something social, or whether it's just a completely new take on it. There's nothing that screams this needs something new. Road to the Show again, whether it is a change to Road to the Show or a new way to have some sort of experience in the mold of that. Because, again, a lot of people love it. Man, if you played Road to the Show more than a couple times in the last few years, there's just nothing for you there.
Well, and that brings us back to the concern I had when they introduced, year-to-year saves, which a lot of people really like. But they can't change the mode, the fundamental nature of that mode. They can't change it and allow you to carry over a save. They can't change it that much. They can make adjustments, they can add small features and everything, but they can't add a story to a mode you already started last year. So it would probably have to be something brand new, and that's a pretty big investment for them. And this is a fairly small development team with a fairly limited budget because baseball games don't sell like basketball or football or soccer games. So it leaves you wondering, are we, have we hit a roadblock of sorts because of that? And we'll have to see. Hopefully that's not the case. Or is it going to just be basically like it has been in recent years where they're improving but not necessarily adding? We'll have to see.
I guess the one thing that it would be like mind-blowing to me if they did was if they, again, we talk about NBA 2K a lot, but if they took a page from, I think it was NBA 2K10 or NBA 2K11 with the Jordan Challenge, right? 11. If they introduced the Joe DiMaggio 56-game streak challenge, right? Or the Oral Hershiser, 59-inning challenge, right? Or, it doesn't have to be part of something else, but something that brings the history of the sport in, that gives you a specific set of goals to accomplish, that just gives, baseball fans more than any other sport love history. And I think baseball games lend themselves to being able to reimagine historical situations better than other sports. So if something like that were to show up in MLB 16, the show again, or maybe it's Roger Maris chasing Babe Ruth, right? Where you don't necessarily have to get the licenses, for all of these people, but you get the rights to, a few key people in history and a stadium or two, and you could really do something special. That would be something that would just knock my socks off.
And maybe there's the groundwork for that started last year. We got Legends. We had 30 Legends, right? And you could have used those in franchise mode, and they showed up in Diamond Dynasty, I believe. So they're at least acknowledging some of that history. And I think building out modes, and maybe that's where they're trying to go with those challenge, the challenges that they have and all that. Use them in that manner, but it's a lot of work, and that's why we don't see. Someone said they wanted to see classic stadiums. That's why we don't really see them. And
a lot of
so much work, and for the payoff is fairly limited because nobody's buying a game just for that. So if you went back, and I think on the last generation, they sold classic stadiums as downloadable content, and that we haven't seen them return probably means they didn't really sell. It's unfortunate, but all those considerations have to go in as far as where they're going to put their resources and where they're going to spend their budget. And I think we've seen them allocate those things towards current day stuff and gameplay, especially over the last few years.
Dirty little secret, Brian Weedeye. If MLB 16 the show just looks a little better and plays a little better and has a couple more little things, I'm still probably going to think it's one of the best games of the year because it's that good. This game is so good.
Baseball fans tend to be loyal, very loyal fans, and I think that's the case with a game that's generally satisfying. Although you do hear the rumblings from people that, if it doesn't change, so and so. I'm getting tired of playing the same thing over and over. I was hearing that before last year, hearing that before the year before that. And is that why that it doesn't sell? It doesn't sell more than it does. I mean, it does well, but we're talking a 10th of what Madden sells, and a 13th of what NBA 2K sells. So is it just baseball? Is it just that people don't have the same type of interest, or is it that they're looking for something different? I don't know. But they seem really secure where they're at as far as how successful the game is versus all the development costs that have to go into it.